Dave, man, it's great to have you here.
Good
For,
to be
for,
here.
for those that don't know, this is Professor Dave Explains, Dave Farina, and he hosts the channel Professor Dave Explains, where he shares educational videos and he trash talks on pseudoscientists.
I sure do.
Dan is so goddamn illiterate, and I don't mean science illiterate, just regular illiterate.
You get a lot of crap online for being blunt, let's say.
Oh God, more than any other science communicator in the world. Yes.
Well, and I mean, some of it might be justifiable. You come off like a bit of a dick sometimes, don't you?
I speak about people the way they deserve to be spoken about, and to people the way they deserve to be spoken to. And I won't apologize for it.
Professor Dave Explains. He's a little bit on the vitriolic side and kind of a. Just be forewarned. This video's. He's rotten, okay? He's just a rotten person. No,
Oh, am I such a mean man for exposing you as a pathetic lying fraud to nearly 1 million people? I'm sorry.
That is, like I said, a no-nonsense approach, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, so what's your motivation? Look, you come from a university background and you've been teaching in a classroom. Is this how you approach your classroom teaching?
Well, no, because I don't teach classrooms full of piece of shit grifting frauds and the conspiracy theorists who fall for them. If I did, man, that would be challenging. I probably would speak to them that way, and then I'd get in trouble. No, my experience teaching. I mean, the main job that I had for a number of years was teaching organic chemistry at this trade university here in the LA area, and these were adult learners. They were roughly my age. These were people who had already gone through a bachelor's, but they were trying to make a career pivot. They wanted to go into some like medical field or something, but they didn't take the prereqs, organic chemistry and biology and anatomy and physiology and stuff. So I taught them organic chemistry, and they were such eager learners. They were there to learn. They were paying money for this program so that they could apply to these med programs. And because I was extremely good at explaining organic chemistry, they were very grateful, and we had a great relationship, because it's when you're teaching something, to have an eager learner, a classroom of eager learners, it's a wonderful experience. So I really enjoyed that. I've also taught in a few different high school settings, some of which were not very good experiences. Yeah, I only enjoy teaching to people who want to learn. So on the internet, it's different because they're not in front of me. I'm just, here's the information, and you can find it useful, or you don't like it, or then with the debunks, it's like you can fume silently at home, and then you can try to troll me in the comment section. But I'm just putting the content out and then seeing the ripple effect in the ecosystem, which is hilarious. Yeah.
Welcome to Professor Dave Explains. I'm Dave, and this channel is for learning. But why bother learning all this stuff? Well, for one thing, when you read about science-related news regarding nutrition or medicine or technology, wouldn't you like to know what's going on? To make informed decisions for yourself, rather than just repeating what others are saying. The only way to get there is to learn the fundamentals, and this channel is the fastest way to do it. I cover typical high school and undergraduate curricula.
So, okay, I got two things on this. So first of all, do you think that more scholars, scientists, teachers should be taking this kind of combative, no-nonsense approach towards these grifters?
I do. It's about time. They are poisoning society with science denial, and we are now seeing extreme ramifications. The way that society has been polarized towards pseudoscience, and basically, like, pseudoscience beliefs have become mainstream, and anti-science mentality or animosity towards the scientific community. Those two things have grown and ballooned so much that we're seeing the public is voting administrations into office that are adopting pseudoscientific stances as with official platforms. Like CDC and FDA are no longer trusted, can no longer be trusted sources of information. Have now begun peddling disinformation through official state channels. It is a mess. Like, pseudoscience is no longer some weird video on YouTube or some guy ranting on a street corner. It is official state narrative, and it's a mess. It's worse than it's ever been in human history, and it's time to start fighting back. And I can only do so much. I need the help of the scientific community, my colleagues, science communicators. We need help from the scientific community to do this. Hey everyone, as you know, I debunk charlatans and science deniers of all varieties, but there is a special sense of urgency when such characters are in positions of political power, and thus, by overwhelming popular request, we arrive at RFK. If you are someone who is not aware of what a massive fraud this guy is, or just how harmful he is to America and the world, please watch this video.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Like, as somebody who teaches at a university, I just gave a talk here actually in Cardiff about this, trying to alert my colleagues to the rise in this kind of stuff and
Yep.
how we have to speak up. And it's hard to sell. I mean, everybody's job is at risk already because of cuts. Our funding is at risk, and
Yeah.
we're overworked, and so it's a hard sell for people to put in effort. And then, of course, they're used to taking a much more polite tone towards the public, and instead, what we need to do is be blunt and push back and say, "This is reality, guys.
Yeah.
Reality check. Wake the fuck up."
Yeah.
And what you guys do is you just shit on us. You invent conspiracy theories about people being thrown in prison that have never been thrown in prison. You say that we're shutting down research and we're gatekeeping research that has been published fully, and you can't even bother to Google it and find it. It's so easy to disprove it.
I mean, you don't have to be like me and say these guys are fucking assholes and blah blah blah. You can say this is objectively wrong. This is
Yeah.
disinformation. You can do it in a more civil manner. I insult people when it's deserved, but you don't have to. But you can be blunt in terms of what is and what is not factual information without necessarily insulting anybody.
Yeah, I agree. One of the issues that concerns me sometimes is this idea that, well, science can't prove anything, so we need to placate people with an open mind. When in
Mhm.
reality, science disproves stuff all the time. We
Oh, it can.
reject
Yeah,
hypotheses completely
sure.
all the time. And so
Yeah,
we
it
have to be
disproves things
honest.
all the time. Yeah, it can't conclusively prove something, but it disproves things daily. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I sometimes feel like that scientists and science communicators sometimes infantilize the adult public. It makes
Mhm.
sense when you're talking with children to kind of open their eyes and say, "Hey, anything's possible." But in today's world, we need to actually objectively explain how science is done, and we just got to get cut to the point sometimes. We can't.
Sure. Yeah, and I mean, but the other point is that there's a difference between somebody who says something very speculative and sensationalist, but that does not contradict empirical science, and grifters who pretend they are just, I'm just, Graham Hancock or Avi Loeb. Well, no, you're actually lying and you're specifically contradicting empirical evidence. That's different from just saying, I think that there are aliens on some planet around Proxima Centauri because I just think that. Okay, sure. Okay, I don't know. That's different from I know, like, this is what's going on with a lot of, like, rigidly specific claims that are contrary to evidence. Those are two totally different things that
Yeah.
to engage in.
No, I agree. Look, scientists come up with theories all the time that we're trying to
Yep.
prove, and to our colleagues, they might disagree with them, but that's why we have disagreements. But then, like you said, there's people who are willfully operating in bad faith,
Yep.
and they are grifting in a sense.
This is what Joe's show has become. The occasional grifter used to be outnumbered by more reasonable guests, or at least just harmless comedians. That time has passed. He almost exclusively interviews total lunatics like Terry or grifting charlatans like Billy, Graham Hancock, and all of these anti-establishment ancient aliens frauds peddling campfire stories to make their millions. At this point, it's a proven business model. That's why these frauds keep popping up, and Joe keeps giving them a voice.
So you mentioned Avi Loeb. I just saw your recent videos on
Mhm.
him. Avi Loeb being a fraud. Now, this I didn't actually know much about him actually, other than he was
Mhm.
in the news and on Joe Rogan and stuff like that. And looking at this was nuts. I had no idea he was like actually an esteemed professor at Harvard. How do we deal with people from within our own ranks who are doing this?
The same way you deal with some jerk like Graham Hancock, with the same intensity and animosity. I mean, actually, even more so because he's bringing disrupt. If you're being disreputable and the thing that's interesting though is that the exact kind of people who go, like, if you take somebody from Harvard that's contradicting Graham Hancock or one of the other things they fall for, they go, oh, that's part of the establishment, and they're compromised and everything. But the moment one of them is spewing some crap that they like, he's a Harvard professor. He's the smartest guy of all time. You have to listen to him. No, there are frauds everywhere. There are frauds that are high school dropouts, and there are frauds who have won Nobel Prizes.
Mhm.
All right. If you've won a Nobel Prize or you're a Harvard professor, you're probably less likely to be a fraud, but it can happen. And Avi Loeb's a fraud. And we don't have to go, he's at Harvard, so he's not a fraud, or he is at Harvard, so he's a shill. No, you look at the things they say and compare them to the data that's been gathered by the scientific community.
Leverage Harvard's prestige to get coverage in credulous popular press. That's right. Instead of engaging with experts, his own colleagues, in order to discuss this possibility and all the data working against it, Avi reached out to journalists. Because what the fuck do they know? A guy from Harvard is selling alien stories. It's a clickbait goldmine.
So I did 2 videos on him, and the Loeb bros are as disgusting and toxic a cult as the Graham cult fanboys. In fact, I'm sure there's a tremendous amount of overlap. But I did 2 videos, one in July and then one just recently based on his 3i Atlas stuff, which is his 3rd round of grifting. And it just hasn't stopped. Like every single day, I've had the video out for a couple weeks, and it's just every day, wave after wave of you're close-minded, you blah blah blah. He never the blah blah. Watch the video, dude. It's plain and simple. It's just set up clear as day in the video. Just watch it. He's a fraud. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I get these comments all the time too, where it's like, you clearly didn't even watch the video, man. Like exactly what you're asking for is right there.
Yep.
You know, within the intro,
Yep.
even.
They're just saying things that I specifically debunk in the video they didn't watch. It's breathtaking.
So in a sense, what I'm gathering is that Avi Loeb just keeps claiming that there's evidence for aliens when there's literally none in what he's presenting.
He states, considering an artificial origin, one possibility is that Oumuamua is a light sail, floating in interstellar space as a debris from an advanced technological equipment. He also offers the status of alien probe for the object. Alternatively, a more exotic scenario is that Oumuamua may be a fully operational probe sent intentionally to Earth vicinity by an alien civilization. Sounds pretty juicy, right? And at that time, while outlandish, it at least stemmed somewhat from a place of reality. Solar sails are real. We've built them and we know how they work. If we found a solar sail floating around in space that we didn't build, that would be the most incredible discovery in human history. But did Avi have any positive evidence supporting this claim? No. Had he done any kind of homework whatsoever in order to carefully consider whether this object could be a solar sail? No. Did he consider the broad range of natural explanations before jumping straight to alien spaceship? No.
Everything is aliens. Oumuamua was aliens. This bolide that landed in the ocean was aliens. Atlas is aliens, right? Or he says it's most likely aliens, right? So, he's not saying it's definitely aliens. He's saying it's most likely aliens because there's all these anomalies. Nope. All of the anomalies are fabricated by Avi Loeb. There are no anomalies. There has never been a single second where a 3i Atlas was not behaving exactly like a comet. There's nothing anomalous about it. There's nothing it does that isn't comet-like, and everything that comets do, it does. That's all there is to it.
Let's use a visual. This photograph was taken by a friend of mine, actually, Satoru Murata, who's been in the news because of this fantastic photo.
Nice.
So this looks kind of like he's a former archaeologist, by the way. Now he's a hobbyist photographer for Cosmo photography. So this to me looks like an alien spacecraft. Can you prove me wrong?
Yeah. Well, it sure as hell looks and behaves exactly like a comet. So Occam's razor would tell us that it's a comet.
Here in 2025, we've gotten so much better at discovering comets that we discovered Atlas when it was at a distance of 4.53 AU from the sun, before it had even started to do a bunch of comedy things. So we got to see everything unfold in real time. Now we have to make it absolutely clear up front that 3i Atlas has never once looked like anything other than a comet. Never. Upon its discovery on July 1st, it was immediately recognized to be traveling at speeds that made it interstellar, and it had a fuzzy coma around it, making it a comet. On July 2nd, the very next day, did you hear me? The next day, the Minor Planet Center designated it 3i Atlas and C2025N1, meaning that the astronomical community immediately understood that this was an interstellar comet. It was not expected for much H2O to sublime at that distance, but many comets have volatiles like CO and CO2 that sublime and outgas that far from the sun, and that's what it looked like at the time.
that's the problem, is that Avi Loeb doesn't go, okay, it's almost certainly a comet, but maybe it's an alien disguising itself as a comet, and that's it. If that was the only thing he ever said, I'd be like, all right, man. Okay, I can't disprove that, but it's yeah. I mean, sure, I can't 100% disprove that. You're right, but he doesn't. He goes on all these tirades on a daily basis on his Medium profile, where he just straight out lies about the size of the object, the expected outgassing, the non-gravitational accelerations. He tries to make his case seem very methodical and empirical, and he's just lying about all the data. Right? He's not just some guy going, what if? I don't know. Sure. It's not that. It's much more insidious than that. Yeah.
So in a sense, these tails that we're seeing, that's not fuel. That's the comet gassing.
Yeah, that's just regular like comets when they get close to the sun, they have tails, like everybody knows that. And it happens in a particular sequence. That's the thing. We're so good at spotting these now that we spotted this when it was like almost 5 astronomical units away from the sun, when it was on its way over here. And at that distance, water is not outgassing. It's not close enough to the sun. CO2 is outgassing. And so that's why it had a coma of CO and CO2. And so he immediately, like, one of the first things he lied about, apart from the size, claiming that it's much, much bigger than it is, based on misinterpreting the spectral analysis. He was like, why aren't we seeing outgassing? Because water doesn't outgas at that distance, man. The last one we saw, 2I Borisov, we saw it when it was like 2 point something AU away, and water was already outgassing. So it already looked exactly like a comet. But this one, he just takes advantage of the fact that people don't know when water should start subliming on a comet. Why would they? That's such a random esoteric factoid. But if you know about comets, which Avi doesn't, he did not study comets. He studied like black holes and shit. But all the cometary experts, like the day July 1st, it was discovered. On July 2nd, there were already papers going like, yep, it's a comet. Right? See, it has a coma of CO2, and it's, we can measure everything. And everyone knew it was a comet from day one. There was no discussion about it. And he's all like, but blah, 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 all these anomalies. Nope, no anomalies. Everything totally normal.
So one of the things that I find interesting here is when you debunk these guys, one of your successful ways of doing it is to really wrap up what's the playbook of these people.
Yeah.
And I thought you did a great job with the Avi Loeb playbook.
Call this the Avi Loeb playbook. 1. He writes a paper outside of his expertise, ignoring existing work in the field and avoiding experts like the plague. 2. He publicly makes outrageous comments and claims, using Harvard's reputation to create buzz and sell a bunch of books. 3. When experts inevitably chime in to point out how his work is sloppy pseudoscience, he portrays himself as a victim being silenced by the establishment, just like the wise Galileo. Big Science is dismissive of his brilliance because they can't handle the truth, obviously. They do the same thing with Terrence Howard's crappy arithmetic, and with Discovery Institute's anti-science propaganda, and with Graham Hancock's Atlantis fantasies. This is the only script a charlatan really needs, because it works.
And you started bringing it up. It's to publish in something that is not his field of expertise. What is his actual field of expertise then?
As an astrophysicist, he was publishing a lot on black holes and stuff like that. But here, I want to be clear. It's okay if he decided, oh, you know what, I'm going to study comets now. But that's not what he did. He just said, I'm going to lie about comets to make money. He doesn't consult with experts in that subfield, dynamicists who study the trajectories of comets and things like that, who all have analyzed this in great detail and understand how comets behave. And the other thing is that he doesn't publish on them. He doesn't actually publish peer-reviewed papers. He can't, because it's all full of lies. So he writes up a preprint, doesn't submit it for peer review, sends that preprint to the media, and it looks like a paper. It looks like, ooh, here's this fancy scientific knowledge. That did not get vetted. It did not get run through the peer review system, where somebody who actually studies comets would go, wow, this is a bunch of garbage. Do not publish this in any reputable journal. This is useless. But lay people don't know that. The media don't know that. They're like, it's a guy from Harvard, so he must be right. And I think at this point, the media has caught wind to this. They're like, this is probably bullshit, but who cares? Whenever we fucking interview this guy, everybody watches and we get money. And he's from Harvard, so that's our excuse. Harvard guy, if he's wrong, that's not our fault, right? He's from Harvard, so we should interview him endlessly on every platform. And it's just a shame, because there's no room for actual science reporting on this object, which is tremendously fascinating. It's only the third exocomet we've ever seen. There's all of these cool conversations we could be having, all of this cool news that could be going on about it, but it can't because it's saturated with Avi Loeb says it's aliens. That's the only fucking thing that you can find on this object anywhere on the news, on the internet, anywhere. I mean, except for factual information that's buried by all the noise. It just sucks, you know?
Yeah, it's the same thing with the archaeology pseudo stuff
Yeah.
because, whenever we bring up Göbekli Tepe, even the media has to bring up the narratives of the pseudo stuff, and that
Yep.
it pushes out everything. And it's like the world, how could hunter gatherers do this? And the world's first civilization, and it's like, man, that's not what's cool about Göbekli Tepe.
Yeah.
And they just don't care because that's what ends up getting clicks. And
Yeah. I can't tell you how many comments I get. They're just like, you think archaeologists know everything, but what about Göbekli Tepe? I'm like, well, what about it? Finish the fucking thought, dude. Like, well, you don't know what that is. You have no idea what it is. You heard Jimmy Corsetti say it, or Graham, or anybody, and then they lied about it. Then you're just like, oh, wow. Okay. Archaeologists are dumb. Okay. All right. It's just like, what the
Yeah,
fuck?
I mean,
Man?
I just did an interview with Lee Clare, which I should be publishing soon, and it's just
Mhm.
like even the new picture that they have from all the new research, like even archaeologists don't know what's going on with it. It's like,
Mhm.
we're like picturing the site completely wrong. And
Mhm.
so it's just like we have to pay attention to the experts that are doing the actual hard work because they're the ones that have the hands-on sort of information on this
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, and if interpretations about some phenomenon change, that's the natural course of science, right? Researchers
Yeah.
like you, layperson, you do not have more privileged knowledge over the people who are researching this. They are the ones gathering the information and interpreting it. And if due to new data, their interpretation changes, then that's the new consensus, and you react to that. You are not, you armchair scientist, you're not going to come up with something that the scientists aren't going to come up with, right? They have the data and the expertise to analyze this stuff, not you. As
I
much
know.
as
I love how they love to say, "Oh, it's the alternative stuff that moves science forward," and it's like, what are you fucking talking about? It's the scientists that have always moved stuff forward, and
yeah,
it's like, and then they bring up Galileo, and it's like Galileo was a scientist. You realize,
yeah,
like,
yeah, he was a scientist, and his persecution was at the hands of the Catholic Church,
yeah,
not his scientist colleagues.
yeah.
Like everybody who brings up Galileo in this context, I'm like, you're the dumbest person alive. And then Avi Loeb has the balls to compare himself to Galileo, and he has this Galileo project, and he's like, look, I'm being persecuted by the establishment, which is academia. It's like, dude, what are you talking about? It's ridiculous.
Which, so to finish up that playbook, which is I think a playbook for pretty much every pseudoscience grifter. Obviously, you're doing something that's a bit out of your expertise or entirely out of your expertise. You're an
Yeah,
electrician spouting shit about archaeology, for
right.
example.
Hey, Dan, if only I could be an uneducated electrician like you. Then I would understand science so super good. What a loser.
So that's number one. Number two is you appeal to the public rather than to people that actually know their information because the public
Yep.
cannot fact check you. And
Yep.
so they just don't have the hands-on knowledge base
Nope.
to be able to fact check you.
Eric made several highly specific claims about what's in geometric unity, and Christian is going to go through those claims to show with complete clarity that Eric is a liar, and GU is nothing but smoke and mirrors for tricking the science illiterate public into thinking that he's a genius.
And then number three, to claim you're being persecuted. And
Yep.
I mean, I find that fascinating that that playbook is the same in sort of every field of pseudoscience, isn't it?
Yeah, because it works. It works in medicine, it works in archaeology, it works in astronomy and physics. Eric Weinstein does it, Sabina Hassenfelder, yeah, Graham Hancock and all of those people. Definitely everybody, Pierre Corey and all the ivermectin and all this stuff. It's always the same. I'm being canceled. I'm being demonized by the establishment. I'm a whistleblower. Works every goddamn time. And it's Joe Rogan's favorite story. That's why he endlessly platforms anyone who tells him a story like this. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, and I mean, the way I put it is being canceled actually gives you more of a platform. It's like,
Mhm.
I would love to be canceled. Just go out and cancel me, please. Then
Yeah.
I'll have a
Then you can go
megaphone.
on Joe Rogan a
Yeah,
bunch of times. Yeah.
exactly. Except he's the one canceling me.
They say that I'm misleading the public. I think the public are intelligent enough to make up their own minds.
Well, I would invite those people to come on here and talk with you.
Yes, I would
think
love
that would be fascinating.
I would love to
It'd be
do that.
fascinating to see their argument about the Younger Dryas impact theory, about all of this, because it seems so compelling and so overwhelmingly evidence-based.
Absolutely. It would be a great debate to have. Very few archaeologists are willing to debate with me.
That's what I was going to say. I think you'd have a hard time getting some of them to come on here. They will make excuses like they won't lower themselves to engaging about such ideas.
Or giving him a platform. That's my favorite one.
That's the one they use a lot. Yeah.
Too late. Awesome. Fantastic information. But before we do anything, I think we should probably address what we know now about the debate that you had with Flint Dibble. Yeah. So that was the last time we were here. I appreciate that he came on, and I thought it was going to be an interesting discussion, but it turned out he played fast and loose with the truth. And
so it's a little weird.
Well, that's a catch-22 for him to deal with in his little pea brain.
Which, to be honest, I've seen it. What's one of the things I'm really proud of is thousands of people have told me, because of how he's treated you, I see him in a completely different light. And it's just like, that I do think that the more we push, the more of an impact we have, and the more voices we have out there, the more we can actually
Totally
make our voice known.
Yeah, to me, it's like I'm starting to see a very slight change, the beginnings of an acceleration in another direction, purely based on volume, right? It's just that the internet is so oversaturated with disinformation. How can we expect anything but pseudoscience prevailing in the public consciousness, right? So all we have to do is just do that, right? Just saturate the internet with factual information. And I can be a sensationalist in a certain way, just with inflammatory speech, right? Just you fraud, idiot, douchebag, asshole, right? That kind of like gets people
talking to me
too. Yeah. I just can kind of like, they use narrative to their advantage, and I can use narrative to my advantage too, because it's also true, right? At this point, we're fighting against authoritarianism, essentially.
This is an absolutely outrageous, unprecedented in modern American history, at the doorstep of fascism, profoundly dangerous series of events that we are witnessing unfolding here. The first step is knowing that there's a problem, and if I've gotten you as mad about it as I am, then I've done my job as a science communicator.
Right, with what's going on with medical misinformation and the way that the government has been completely captured by pseudoscience peddlers, which is going to be a disaster for public health. It will cause deaths. Right, it already has a handful, at least, definitely. Yeah, whooping cough, and measles and stuff.
To New Mexico to the west, and Oklahoma to the north, and then Kansas. So it's a 4-state epidemic, roughly 1,000 cases and 100 hospitalizations, and tragically, at least 2 pediatric deaths in school-age kids whose parents made a decision not to vaccinate them, otherwise perfectly healthy kids. So it's a pretty devastating measles epidemic, and it's going on for a long time.
That's going to continue. So it's like there's something to rage against here, right? The way that the people who fall for the pseudoscience grift think that they're raging against the establishment and big pharma. We got to get big pharma, right? All of this stuff. That again, but for real. So you stand a shot at capturing that kind of intensity in people, but just based on factual information. But we need a greater volume of it. We need another 500 people doing what I do. So.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I mean, it's like you bring up big pharma, and it's just like, man, like I don't like big pharma. There's obviously lots of individual examples of corruption and stuff, but at the same time, medicine has never been better. Like if I was dealing with my same cancer 15 years ago, I'd already be dead. I would have been given a 6-month window to live 6 months ago. And instead, my cancer is now almost gone. It's still there, and I don't know if it will disappear, but it's like almost gone. And so clearly I have a good chunk of life still left, whether it's 5 years or whether it's a lot longer. I don't know. But, medicine fucking works. The problem is the capitalistic system and the corruption involved. We need to deal with that, but it doesn't mean that medicine needs to be thrown under the bus. It's like throwing the baby out with the bathwater.
Correct.
Yeah.
Science-based medicine is all that matters, and you can take your alternative remedies and shove them up your ass. I'm sorry.
I'm with you. So Look, one of the things that I see this as, and I agree with you, I'd like to hear more about what you just said about seeing the signs of change, is, like I'm a historian. So I look at cultural change over time, and even just looking at cultural change, say in the 20th and 21st century, you can see pseudoscience and science sort of existing as a pendulum. There's
Mhm.
periods where kind of, anti-science beliefs are extremely popular. You could think about the 70s or like the 30s and 20s, like that kind of stuff was super popular, or the 1890s when theosophism was super popular.
Mhm.
And so I think we're in one of these periods where the pendulum is very far on the pseudoscience end. But I agree with you. I have full hope we're going to swing back, and I see signs as well. What kind of signs are you seeing for
I
optimism?
mean, I'm just seeing the stirrings of the scientific community, the academic community, and also the pro science sector of the public that are just done with it. Like we've just had it. Like it's not. It just gets worse and worse and worse. And now that it has infected the government, um, it's really dangerous. It's really dangerous because it's become a cog in the wheel of this machine that is pushing towards authoritarianism and this like technocratic dystopia where it's just like if we slide too far in a particular direction, it's going to be nearly impossible to get back. Because if you have a government that has authoritarian power and has all of these futuristic tools of like AI and deepfakes and all this stuff, and just like a complete control over the information ecosystem, where it becomes literally impossible to know what's true. Um, Anybody who speaks out and offers the truth can be framed for whatever crime. Anyone, any dissident, any subversive individual can be jailed arbitrarily. Like just we're going in a direction that will be impossible to come back from. That's why we need to be fighting voraciously right now while it's still possible to do so. But I am seeing that attitude. I am seeing a little bit of like, enough is enough. It sucks that it took everybody's budget being slashed to get there, right? I saw it going that way a lot earlier because that's my job. Like I'm not doing scientific research. I'm watching the public. I'm
Yeah.
watching the public fumble everything, right? Get some things right, get most things wrong, and figuring out why they're getting it wrong and trying to assess what to do about it. So I'm constantly watching the public try to talk about science and figure out how to address what they're getting wrong. So I saw it going this way since the pandemic.
Yeah, yeah.
And unfortunately, now it's just taken Trump's budget cuts to get the scientific community to be like, "Whoops, we are in gigantic, enormous trouble. Like, we won't be able. Like, if we don't get the public on board with fact-based information, we cannot do science anymore." Uh,
That's the truth. This is a
yeah,
a battle for public opinion. If we don't
yes,
get the public on board to see the validity and the reality of what science and scholarship and education does, we're not of value to them, and they're not going to want it.
I expose charlatans and explain precisely how they are lying. But another approach to solving this problem involves demystifying science for the public. In addition to neutralizing lies, we have to rehabilitate public perception of the scientific community. You see, most people don't know a single scientist. They have no idea what scientists do. This makes them more likely to fall for these anti-science narratives because they have no real-life examples to compare with. But what if scientists could show people exactly who they are, what they do, and why? This was precisely my thinking in starting my Get to Know a Scientist series. Never has it been more important than now to show the public precisely who scientists are and what they do, because the impression they are receiving from the media and from the White House is grossly inaccurate.
And so
right.
it's very much a communications issue. It's also why I started speaking up in like 2021,
Mhm.
and starting to debunk some of this stuff, because I realized it was so much more widespread belief than I could have imagined. I'm in my
Yep.
little ivory tower bubble, even though I'm at a public university in the
Sure.
UK, but whatever.
Yeah. It's still
And
academia.
yeah,
It's not
exactly. And so,
Twitter.
like, when you step out of that and you realize, well, actually, most people on the internet actually really do think the pyramids aren't tombs. And it's like, are you
Yep.
kidding me? The Egyptians told us they're tombs. Like, we have
Yeah.
so much fucking evidence, and it's just sort of jars your worldview. Beating heart of the Great Pyramid of Giza is the key to understanding it. And that is this right here, the sarcophagus. It's very clearly a sarcophagus, a stone vessel the size to fit a human body. But of course, this evidence does not convince everybody.
I've been in Giza 3 times, and there's nothing about the Great Pyramid that resembles anything like a tomb.
There's nothing in the Great Pyramid that resembles a tomb? Are you kidding me? There's a frigging coffin right there. There's a giant sarcophagus that is really clearly a sarcophagus. So I don't care if you've been to Giza 3 times, 10 times, this is just a lie. I have this idea that part of the acceleration of this pendulum swing back is actually fueled by the AI, because there's just so much fake shit now. And I think more and more people are starting to crave real shit, if that makes sense.
Sure. Yeah. Or it's kind of like the epistemological breakdown is sort of forcing enhanced skepticism in people.
Yeah.
Like more people are like, oh, okay, most things are fake. I'm catching on to the fact that so much is fake. Yeah, I think that could have a hand in it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just something I thought. I mean, obviously AI still carries its own issues because people use it for research, but it hallucinates. And, so it has its issues, but it can be a useful tool. And at
Sure.
the same time, it is then weaponized, though, by these people to create all this fake onslaught
Yeah.
of shit.
Just
Yeah.
like the internet. Yeah. The internet is likely still a net positive, but can be used as a weapon. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's something that's baffled me in my research. I used to have so much optimism for the internet, and now I'm like, oh, I now have a lot of pessimism as well,
Yeah. No, I've
Yeah.
become increasingly pessimistic since the pandemic. Yeah. I mean, it's just that's why, like, in my arc of debunking, the point where I'm at now, I'm kind of like, why would I debunk anything other than these frauds that have infiltrated the government, right? And anybody that Trump, obviously Bobby Kennedy, but also Jay Bhattacharya, all of these people who have infected the government and are now disseminating pseudoscience through official state channels. Like, this is the only target. Like, fuck flat earthers. I mean, pseudoarchaeology and that kind of stuff, like, is still, and definitely all the like fake physics stuff, like that's very important because it gets such a great sector of the public and polarizes them against science in general. So I do have to do that too. But it's like everyone who is spewing lies in the government, this is target number 1, and I will not stop going after every single one of these guys. I have at least 3 or 4 videos that I'm working on right now that are in that vein, among some others that are slightly different. But this is target number 1. Like, we have to rid the government of this scourge of pseudoscience and medical misinformation and all this stuff. It's really, really bad. It's a really bad situation right now.
No, I agree. I've been working my way through the new book by Michael Mann and Peter Hotez on anti-science, and yeah, it's just one of the things that doesn't get me is all these people are so anti-establishmentarianists, but this is the establishment now,
Yeah.
and so I
They're
wonder if
such
that's
fucking
also part of the
hypocrites.
pendulum that'll swing it back as they slowly realize that this is the establishment. If you see what I
Yeah.
mean.
It's like the unbelievable hypocrisy of like any time in the past where you cite CDC or FDA or any of this stuff, and they're like, they're shills, they're captured by big pharma, blah, blah, blah. You can't trust anything in the government, et cetera, et cetera. And now that you got the pseudoscience peddling jerks in all these positions, like Peter McCullough, Bobby McKennedy, Jay Bhattacharya, they're suddenly CDC. Look, CDC says that Tylenol causes autism, or vaccines do. You trust the government now? Since when did you fucking start trusting the government, you asshole? Like, be consistent. Like, pick a lane. Like, it's unreal. Like,
Yeah.
the demonization of Hotez and Fauci, and then the glorification of Bobby Kennedy instead. It's like a fucking cartoon world. I can't handle it.
It is. But I do agree with you that we need to be tackling more than just that, because I think, at least from my view of pseudoarchaeology, it's a major vector into this
Yeah.
world of distrust of experts. It's and
100%.
and with pseudoarchaeology in particular, what really annoys me is the media accepts it completely. So, like, Graham Hancock's Ancient Apocalypse, it's a documentary. His
Right.
book is listed on Amazon as an archaeology book,
Yeah.
and the bestseller in archaeology. When it's legitimized by all these major platforms, so no shit, it's gonna be used to radicalize people.
Yeah.
Because it's right there for them to absorb as entertainment,
Yes.
as well as the values of anti-intellectualism and anti-science. Polls out of Chapman University show that about 50% of Americans believe in Atlantis or a similar lost advanced civilization from the Ice Age. So this is pervasive, and we cannot blame our fellow Americans and citizens and people around the world for believing this because it is presented as legitimate in mainstream sources. Places like Netflix, IMDb, and Amazon all list Graham Hancock's Ancient Apocalypse or his books as legitimate archaeology, as do newspapers like the Daily Mail here in the UK and the New York Post in the US. So we cannot blame ordinary people who have not taken any university level classes on archaeology for believing this stuff. And so we have to speak up.
Yeah, and there are so many of those funnels. There are so many of those funnels that lead into the pseudoscience pipeline where one can then descend as low as they like, right? They can, once you fall for one thing and you start to distrust any kind of expertise, then, well, it's all up for grabs. And you can go all the way down to flat earth at the bottom if you want. Or if you're not quite that dumb, you can get off at, I don't know, moon landing denial or wherever you want to land. But they're all funnels into one pipeline that all serve kind of the same purpose.
Yeah, they really are, and their communities very much overlap. Do you see, like, you've now tangled with all the pseudo-archaeology trolls and whatnot. Is there a difference in character or quality between one community and another? Like, are pseudo-archaeology trolls essentially the same as flat earthers and anti-vaxxers, or is there shades of different?
Flat earthers are a unique brand of stupid. They're the dumbest people in the entire world, and they're not the same as the other ones because there are so many pseudo archaeology. That's actually one thing that's really funny is that there are so many people that are anti-vaxxers or pseudo archaeology idiots and all of these things that find one of my flat earth debunks and go, ha 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 ha. Dave is awesome. He's debunking this garbage flat earth thing. And then they find one of my things debunking what they fell for. And they're like, I was wrong about you. You should stick to debunking flat earth, you stupid jerk. It's the funniest thing. So flat earth is unique. Pseudo archaeology and like the Avi Loeb bros are a Venn diagram that's very close to a circle. Anti-vax is a different, yet again, unto itself, because the nature of that disinformation is more subtle and more esoteric. I find more intelligent people falling for anti-vax and like that whole sphere of stuff because there is very intelligently designed propaganda that resembles legitimate scientific research. So it's very easy without any expertise to go, all right, I see these papers that are saying this. I see these papers that are saying this. This person is telling me about the conflict of interest of pharma and et cetera, and et cetera. So it's like, it's a very difficult terrain to navigate. I have a fair amount of sympathy for people who fall for not, oh, the vaccines are from Bill Gates that are trying to kill everybody, but just like a modest amplification of like adverse reactions to COVID vaccines or things like that. It looks plausible if you don't understand the background of the figures who put that information out there, who is promoting it, what their motives are, etc. So that's a different thing. But yeah. The thing about statistics, they can be misleading. Here's a graph proving that ice cream sales cause shark attacks. Here's one proving that pool drownings are caused by Nicolas Cage films. Here's one proving that death by bed sheets is caused by ski resort profits. Do we need to continue? The point is that illustrating correlation does not ever demonstrate causation. You have to do rigorously empirical mechanistic studies. Every time we've done that, every single time, all the data and all of the meta-analyses show no link whatsoever between vaccines and autism. A 2002 study traced 537,000 kids and found no difference in autism rates between those who got the MMR vaccine and those who didn't. A 2003 cohort study of 467,450 children saw no relationship between thimerosal-containing vaccines and risk of developing autism. A 2019 nationwide study of 657,461 children found no increased risk of autism among children who were vaccinated, including among those with risk factors like a diagnosed sibling.
Yeah, I'd actually argue, so we talked about playbooks of pseudoscientists. I'd actually argue a big one that I've observed is pseudoscientists trashing a different pseudoscience belief to appear plausible.
Yes.
And so, like, it's a common thing. I see Jimmy Corsetti trashing flat earthers. I see, Graham Hancock trashing ancient aliens, all because they want their ideas to appear more plausible
More
by
plausible
saying it's
comparison.
not as silly as this other stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Even though Graham came from the ancient aliens bullshit.
Exactly.
So, but yeah, flat Earth is like even young Earth creationists make fun of flat Earthers. It's the easiest thing to make fun of. It's the bottom of the barrel. But yeah.
But I do agree with you. Therefore, like all this effort to make things appear plausible, I certainly never really blame anybody that's caught up in this stuff. It's the purveyors of this misinformation and disinformation that are at fault here.
Sure.
They're the grifters. The people who believe they've just not been exposed to the right information.
Yeah. Yeah, and then I blame them only for their varying degrees of toxicity in defending the
Yes,
crap that they
that's
fell
different.
for. Yeah. So if you come to my video and are like, "You stupid shill, blah blah blah," like, well, you didn't watch the video. Go fuck yourself. Like, I will. Like, I'm just sort of like I've gone so past my limit in terms of like placating morons that like if you come to my channel, I don't go around to other channels and pick fights, but if you come to my channel and don't watch my video and talk a bunch of shit, I will fucking lace into you because I'm done with this shit. I don't care. Trolls just like if you're like my favorite is like people coming at me with troll energy and then I mirror it back to them and then they whine about how mean I am. It's like can't take it, don't dish it out. Go fuck yourself. Like this is not the place for you to come and leave nasty comments thinking that there will be no repercussions. You will have done to you what you are trying to do to me, and much better because I'm smarter than you and I'm also right. So yeah.
Who's the bitch?
Yeah. No, it's like I just wanted, just smack some sense into these people.
So why engage and not just block? What's your philosophy on that?
Oh, well, the main reason would be that extended comment threads boost the content in the algorithm.
Okay.
So it is a little bit of a chore, but it's like every time I get in a back and forth with somebody and it goes 30, 40 posts down, and then there's like 100 of those within the first day of a video, I very noticeably see an uptick. Right on the first day you release the video, it kind of goes like this. It starts to plateau, but then on the second day, you might see a little whoop, like just it'll correct itself. It'll kind of have a new trajectory. That's because the algorithm picked up on how much engagement there is in the video and is suggesting it more. So I definitely, that's the main reason I do it. But also the second reason I do it.
Teach me more, Jedi Master.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like it's like 10 times more or anything, but it's just, it shows it to more people. You get more views.
Yeah.
And the second reason I do it is because when trolls are there, some of them are just idiots, but there's also when you're taking down Avi Loeb, when you're taking down, anything that's propped up by, any of the shills that Peter Thiel pays, stuff like that, they are definitely investing in bot campaigns and like all this stuff. Like some of it is disingenuous disingenuous fake profiles there to try and change the narrative, right? They want to shift the optics. They want to make it seem like, oh, educated people are pushing back on this content. So maybe there's more to see here. Maybe it's not so open and shut. But when I engage with trolls like that, what you get is an extended comment thread where it's just, you don't blah, 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 blah. Where am I wrong in this video? Blah, 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 blah. Where am I wrong in this video? Anyone reading this thread can see very clearly that this person, if they even exist, did not watch the video, has nothing to say about it, is completely incapable of refuting anything in the video, going so far as saying like, you didn't even talk about any motherfucker. It's an hour of me referencing primary scientific literature. What are you talking about? And so anyone can see that, and the intended optical shift of that troll will be completely reversed. It will only discredit the people who are trying to discredit me. So it's an optical shift even further in my favor when I get trolls to throw tantrums, extended tantrums like that. It's great. So I exploit trolls. To anyone who has a thick enough skin and a few extra minutes per day, exploit trolls. It's great.
I sure hope some of the people that critique your tone see this, because it is clearly a method to your madness here.
Yeah.
Like they might not have to agree, but like one of the things I had a friendly debate with David Miano, who runs the World of Antiquity channel, and he takes a much more calm demeanor, let's say, and where he will placate people and let them run with their stuff, and he's the opposite of your approach, right?
One thing I suffer from that Professor Dave probably does not suffer from is that by trying to be more polite, people say I'm condescending. So
I bet you he gets called condescending all the time.
You think he gets called condescending?
I think we all do.
I don't know if you come on strong like that. Maybe it's just like, well, it's beyond that. I don't know, but I get.
And so we were talking about this, and I'm like, I actually think that both approaches work. I tend to think that different people respond to different tones. And so, I think we just need all of us out there with our different voices and our different tones trying to promote real science and real education. But it does show you're not just some inflammatory troll yourself back. You actually have a method to your madness that thinks it through and the impact it has.
There's a method to exploiting that kind of rhetoric, but also they deserve it. And I'm just serving them what they deserve. But it's like, I mean, everyone can find their own tone. I think that the key to effective science communication is authenticity. And I am authentically like this. I do not take this kind of shit. I don't take shit from trolls. I don't care. This is how I'm confrontational. I'm a confrontational person. If you're not, then your authentic way of speaking is a more non-confrontational way. But authenticity and integrity, this is the currency that science communicators deal with, right? Yeah. People can sniff it out if you're being disingenuous.
Which is why scientists and scholars, when they sort of get their tongue twisted when trying to explain something in too nuanced of a way, same with government officials during COVID and stuff like that, it comes off as disingenuous, even though they're just trying to be honest.
They just don't have practice communicating.
Well, they do in the classroom, but they're more comfortable in the classroom. It's why I always tell my colleagues we should be focusing on getting introductory classroom level materials out, not your cutting edge research. You know, like your cutting edge research is complex and nuanced and embedded in a scholarly discourse. You're used to teaching. Like, teach the public, man.
I definitely hope that, like, I'm definitely not going to go on some kind of tirade about how we need to restructure the entire educational system, blah blah blah, nothing like that. It like what we're doing with education is fine, but I do think that every science major as an undergrad, there should be a small component, a SciComm 101, just like one course, just like learning the basics and getting some practice at communicating scientific topics to the layperson. It just should be in there. So.
Okay. Yeah, it makes sense. All right. I got a couple more questions for you if you got the time.
Yeah.
So one of them is, what else can we do? We just can encourage more people to speak up. What other solutions you got?
That's all I got right now, and I think that that's all we need right now because there are nowhere near enough people doing it. If we get 10 times more people doing it and we're still not getting anywhere, then we need to brainstorm some other avenues. But right now, it's really just a numbers game, right? We're just outnumbered by at least an order of magnitude or several orders of magnitude, and we just need to bring the numbers up. Then once we do that, let's go from there. You know what I mean?
Colleagues, listen to this guy. I've been saying this too. It's about creating an ecosystem where we can boost each other and support each other. And in that sense, I'm grateful for you because you got 4 million subscribers and you boost me, you boost other scholars and other science communicators. And it's like, that's what we all need to be doing, is building out this ecosystem and changing the algorithms in a sense to change even the very terms they use, which I guess leads me to my second question. You produce educational content. Like just straight up educational content, but that does not get nearly as many views as your debunking content, at least these days. And so what are your thoughts on the advantages and disadvantages of using debunking as a tool to share educational material?
Oh, it's great. I mean, people definitely leave comments all the time that are like, wow, like I came here to see you dunk on a fraud, but I just learned a shit ton about comets or origin of life research or, whatever, just anything. Because the thing is, with every debunk that I do, whether if it's 90 minutes long, I'm taking the first 15 minutes to teach a bunch of information because you need it in order to go, oh, now I can very clearly see how this is a fallacious narrative because it contradicts this basic stuff that we know about comets or whatever. I'm talking about comets because I just debunked Avi Loeb, but it holds in every topic. And then the other thing I do is when I do that, I go, okay, that's all we need for this debunk. But if you want to learn more about astronomy or molecular biology or archaeology or whatever it is, I have a whole series of introductory tutorials without any context of debunking. Just this is the basics that you learn freshman year in college. If you want that information given to you nice and succinctly with engaging visuals, just very easy to watch, check that out, and just kind of inform yourself so that you'll be inoculated towards other kinds of lies. But so I will admit that like the debunking gets so much more traction that it's hard to keep up with the tutorials. I still am doing them and will continue to do them for the foreseeable future, but the return, the ROI on them is is just not there. But I do like how it pads out the content on my channel, which lends it credibility, and it's also, you know, a public service. But yeah, for now I'm going to keep trying to do both, but there may come a day where I just stop doing the tutorials because this other thing is
No,
just so much more pressing.
I've had the exact same issue where I produce like really cool archaeology. We put a lot of work into it,
Yep.
and just nobody clicks.
10K
And it's
views,
like,
20K
you know,
views, yeah.
like it's like, what's the point? Like if
Yeah.
I'm putting in a ton of effort to produce a high quality video that nobody's gonna watch,
Yeah.
what is the point? It's not just doing it for
Yeah.
my shits and giggles. Apollo's sanctuary at Delphi is the stuff of legends. For over 1,000 years, the famous oracle foretold the futures and fortunes of the city-states and heroes of ancient Greece. This video explores whether the priestess was stoned on geological vapors.
I mean, my tutorials are the epitome of evergreen content, so they don't get a lot of views right away, but they could over a long time. But the thing is that all of the coursework that is just like, you know, chemistry, biology, physics, math, like the stuff that everybody's looking for, I've kind of covered all of that already. And so some of the topics I'm hitting now, like forensic science or something, like there's just not that many people studying that. So
Yeah.
like just the view count, like I don't see them I don't see them climbing that high even over many years. So it's like, I don't know. There's certain topics that I still think a lot of people are studying and many people will benefit from in an academic setting. But then there's stuff where I'm like, maybe I shouldn't have chosen this topic. No, like this isn't worth my time.
So, okay, two follow-ups on this. One is the drama of a debunk. I think that
Mhm.
that's part of what makes it so interesting to people is you're learning, but you're learning in a dramatic setting, which keeps you engaged and interested.
Way out there and put that fucking tinfoil hat on tight. If they open up the labyrinth, if they figure out a way to drain the water, and they do find out that 40-meter long metallic thing is something from another place,
interdimensional,
something from another place,
right?
No, no, no. Let's put down the tinfoil hat before we go into the labyrinth, as Joe calls it. Is
Sure.
there anything else that you think is it just because it's celebrities that you're debunking? What else is it that makes a debunk more appealing for an educational content?
I mean, I think that certainly it's heightened when I'm going after a very public figure, sometimes a powerful figure like Bobby Kennedy. But there's also just, I think that some viewers get a catharsis from just they also hold these pro-science views and are also frustrated with anti-science people. And there's a catharsis, like when people watch me do a reaction video to some ridiculous creationist propaganda that may not even be a famous or influential person. It's just somebody peddling these lies that we've all heard so many times, and then watching me like sometimes drinking some scotch and just like going off on it. There's a catharsis there of like, get him, Dave, you know, like tell the world, just this sort of like rallying around something and hoping like, how can we make this change? How can we help the public get past this? Whether it's an ancient superstition or a modern conspiracy theory, how can we get past this gullibility? Yeah.
So, sorry, the way you framed that actually made me start thinking about some of the dangers of this, though, because if you're giving everybody a lovely catharsis, that's gonna
Pacify
ramp
them.
down their
Yeah.
tension about what's going on, and then they're just going to consume it as content when we want to actually be mobilizing people to do more.
Totally.
Yeah, I just realized that little contradiction there, which how do we overcome that? I don't really know.
Well, it depends on the target. Like if it's a
Yeah.
very serious target, I always have a call to action, right? You need to, check out this organization that is actively working to impeach Bobby Kennedy.
I mean, we've been able to get the commitment from Representative Stevens's office that she will be bringing forward articles of impeachment. And regardless of whether or not he is actually impeached and removed through that process, it forces a vote.
Yeah.
So people have to die on the Hill.
Like there's stuff that if it's very serious, or if I'm exposing the current Christian nationalists that are involved in Project 2025 Heritage Foundation that are, polarizing the government, moving it towards Christian theocracy. There's always a call to action that goes along with that. That's not necessarily always there if I'm reacting to some like 30-year-old creationist after school special or something like that. That's a little bit different. That's more entertainment, I will admit. But yeah, I think it's proportional to the target that's
Yeah.
being debunked.
Okay, that makes sense. So the last thing I wanted to talk about this was, especially you brought it up already. You start your videos off with truth and the state of the science, and you don't just immediately move into the drama, let's say. And I have to say that's where I think you do a better job of debunking than many other debunking channels, because there's a lot of scientific research out there, social science, that shows that if you start off with a debunk, people remember the first thing you say better than the second thing. And so, you're
Mhm.
creating effectively what they call a truth sandwich, where you start
Yeah.
off with some truth, then you move to the debunk, and then you move back to some more educational stuff. And
Mhm.
do you consciously frame stuff in that way for that reason, or is it just your natural way of explaining stuff?
Probably not consciously, and also I'm not sure that I necessarily qualify as doing that because I definitely open the debunk with like, this is the target of the video. This person is a fraud. So if you're a fan of Avi Loeb, you're immediately getting pissed off because I just told you that Avi Loeb is a fraud. Then I move into factual information about comets, and then I move into debunking everything Avi Loeb says about Three Eye Atlas. Um, but I'm definitely like, the title of the video is Avi Loeb is a fraud. Like, you're not like, who? Oh,
But that's
somebody's
truth
talking
there
about Avi.
too.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I mean, it's truth. It's all truth. It's truth wall to wall. It's all truth. But so hopefully somebody, if they can get past the first 2 minutes and make it into the area where it's just me talking about comets for 15 minutes, maybe they can be like, all right, well, okay, that all sounds, maybe they can start to get sucked into the video as a whole. But I don't know. I try to think a very little bit about those kinds of things, about that type of pacing, but ultimately I'm just like, it's however I want the video to be. Like there are so many people who just will not watch the video, not even the first second. They won't press play. They'll be like, oh, Dave, you got to cut your hair, because my icon is still me from 10 years ago when I had long hair. And I'm like, hey, thanks for admitting that you didn't watch literally the first fucking frame of the video, because you don't know that I've had short hair for 7 years now. Um, these kinds of people, like, there's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do in the title, in the opening, anything like that to get them to take their guard down and watch the video. But there are people who will, because they haven't gone all the way down, right? They've been like, oh, Avi says some interesting things. Well, here's somebody who says he's a fraud. I don't know. Let me see what they say, I guess. And then if they can get any decent chunk of the way into the video, they'll be like, all right, well, okay, I think I've been duped. But yeah, I don't think about that too much. I just kind of make the strongest piece I can, and just hope that enough people will watch it. And the ones that do, hopefully they will disseminate what's in it to the people in their personal spheres that have fallen for this stuff, and maximize the reach that way.
That makes sense. So one of the things that I think is amazing is the way you bring humor to this. You're like an insult comic, right?
Yeah.
And it's just like you dive into all this shit. Does it depress you, or you just find it funny?
I mean, a little from column A, a little from column B. I mean, it's like, it's endlessly funny in the way that everything is funny, even dystopia, looming dystopia. You can find humor in that if you try hard enough. I mean, yeah, it's not like I am very depressed and very worried about the future of America specifically, and humanity as a whole. I'm not completely convinced that we will survive the remainder of the 21st century. Um, yeah, I've grown increasingly pessimistic, and I'm just hoping to find some pockets of optimism in the way that I've seen intelligent people start to kind of push back against this hysteria. But all I can do, I mean, just no matter what in life, like, you had to find some humor somewhere, something about it. And you can inject that. And, I try to put humor in my content. I think in a way it strengthens the material, just sort of like when you can bring humor to, like, look at how cartoonishly evil Andrew Wakefield is, or Bobby Kennedy, or whoever these people are. It just, I don't know, it engages people more, gets them more invested in, the debunk and stuff. So
Yeah, no, I agree. It reminds me of Mel Brooks, where he was asked about, what was it, Springtime for Hitler,
Yeah.
the producers, and he's like, "Look, these people want to be perceived as evil. They get off on it. What I'm trying to do is, poke that little hole in them, to like deflate them. And
Yeah.
so, poking fun at fascism and pseudoscience and whatnot, that's one of the best ways to actually show that they're not as evil and they're not as omnipotent or intelligent or as powerful as they sometimes
Yeah.
want to appear."
Thank Hitler for being such a funny guy on stage.
You know?
They're just a bunch of loser frauds.
Yeah, they're just a bunch of fucking
All the way to
loser
the top.
frauds.
Trump is a big old loser fraud, and everyone he puts in his cabinet is a big old loser fraud.
But that said, I got more optimism than you. As a historian, look, humans have risen and have been resilient against so many different challenges. As a species, we are extremely resilient. We might have some dark times ahead, but at the same time, I don't think we're going to go completely extinct. It's just going to be a question of who survives and how. And, even at the darkest version of our medium-term future, let's say, because that's what history teaches me. I'm not a doomer. I'm not a full optimist either, because we have dark times right here, but I'm not going to say we're going to be extinct. All right. I hope not too. Last question. What was your favorite debunk
that I've ever done?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I think some of this stuff that I've been most proud of is all the James Tour stuff.
Hey everyone, lately you've seen me clap back at James Tour for his most recent personal attack on me, and you've also seen me dismantle his pathetic attempt at writing a paper on origin of life research. But there's so much more to make fun of him about, so let's do that together now, shall we?
I'm also no, that has to be it. It's just the most iconic, like, narrative thread in my debunking history. Just the how intense it was and how long it was, how much of a back and forth, and then the live debate and all that stuff.
For every paper you put up, have never studied anything in this area. Are you kidding me? All you do is go, show me the papers, and then I show you papers. Here, let's see if I can find that one exactly.
Yeah, show me the one exactly that does this in a prebiotic fashion. Show me. It's not there.
Okay.
I'm asking you to come up and show me the chemistry.
James, I don't need to write on the board. I brought actual papers. This is actual research.
Okay, show me the paper. Show me in that paper this example.
Okay,
this is called.
This is the one you wanted.
Aspartic acid.
James.
This is called lysine.
James, look. This is the Gadiri paper. Here's the scheme. You want to go through that?
But
I just like how badly I've humiliated him and discredited him as a person, to now that he's doing full young earth creationism, evangelical bullshit on his channel, because he's like, well, nobody takes me seriously with my science communication anymore. So I have to be a preacher. So yeah, I'm quite proud of that one.
Good. You should be. I think we should all be proud of our wins when we get them. But in his books and in his Netflix series, he describes this civilization as introducing agriculture. He talks about seed banks and things like that.
Do I?
In The Magicians of the Gods. I have a quote in here.
Show me.
Okay, you want me to?
Yeah.
Let's see it. I want to see it.
Give me a second. It seems fanciful to you want to use it? I can't do your accent.
You want to read it?
It seems fanciful to imagine that we might, in an almost high-tech sense, be looking at the specifications of a seed bank here. Oh, this is from Fingerprints of the Gods.
No, it's from Magicians of the Gods.
Oh, maybe I repeated it.
And cool. Well, it was great to talk with you. Thank you so much, and we'll do some more stuff in the future, I'm sure.
Thanks for having me. Absolutely.
Yeah.
As I hope more scientists in general begin to speak out against science denial in this current climate of anti-intellectualism. These are scary times we are living in, where factual information is regularly disregarded and drowned out by sensationalist lies. Never in human history have we been so thoroughly inundated with falsehood and deceit on a minute-to-minute basis, from popular media all the way to the White House. Should our darkest fears become realized, it will be because not enough of us did enough in these times to stop it. So let's stay vigilant and be loud as all hell, because our potential as a species is just too much to waste.
Rhymes and riddles, tickle, tickle, giggles, squiggle, jiggle, fiddle, flint, pun,